Hey there, it's Roslyn here again, and welcome to my channel, and welcome back if you've been here before. Today I am playing with this Hero Arts stamp set called Cup of Love, and you'll see a stencil behind there from Newton's Nook, but I don't actually end up using it in this card, but I will in a future video. I'm going to break out my Inktense markers, which I haven't really given a chance yet. I kind of got excited and bought them and scribbled a bit with them, but really didn't know how to use them. But I was excited about them. But now I decided, really, Rosalind, we got to get using our stuff. So I'm swatching out some colors that I think will look good for this card. And I'm picking the reds and the pink colors because the stamp set does have a lot of hearts in it. And so I'm just using some watercolor paper here. I believe it's like a Strathmore watercolor paper, the one with the yellow cover. And I'm just adding a little bit of water with, I believe it's a size 3 paintbrush here, and activating those Inktense pencils. So Inktense pencils, from what I know, it's more of a pigment type of consistency as opposed to a watercolor. So they are more intense in color, hence the name Inktense. And they're a lot of fun to play with, just as I'm getting into playing with them now. I am also swatching out some blues and some teals because I think that will go nice with the reds and the pinks for the mugs of the coffee cups on my card. So as you can see, as I put the water on these swatches, it activates those inks, and I can bring that color out with some water and it fades away. So I'm just finishing up my swatches here, and here are my coffee mugs stamped out, and I stamped them with some Barely There Gina K ink. It's an amalgam ink, a hybrid ink that you can use with both watercolor mediums and your alcohol-based markers. And I was going to attempt to do some no-line coloring today. And so this is new for me. I'm just getting into the no-line coloring. I didn't think I was going to, but I took some retreat classes where we did some no-line coloring, and it was a lot of fun. So I thought I could try it with these Inktense pencils. So as you can see, I'm laying the color down with my pencil and blending that out with just a little bit of water. And you can see I'm using the darkest color where the shadows are going to be. And then I color in with some lighter color here. I believe I used Shiraz. That's what was called for the darkest color. And I used different colors like the carmine pink, crimson, the chili red, and the cherry. And I'm also bringing in some purpley fuchsia colors as well. One of them is called fuchsia, and the darker one is called red violet. And since this is only like my second real time using these Inktense pencils, I'm still getting used to if I should lay down the color with the pencil first, or if I should wet the nib of the pencil with my paintbrush and add color to my project that way. And you can see I'm getting a bit of harsh lines on some of those hearts. I shouldn't really go around, like in my opinion, I shouldn't really go around with that pencil. It's just a habit that I've gotten with doing some marker coloring. I tend to outline things a lot to create some edges, but I do some things to fix that up later on. Now I am taking some of those teal blue colors and adding it to my coffee mug, keeping the darkest color on the edge of my coffee mug and bringing in some different shades in towards the center of the mug. And like I said, I'm still learning these pencils, so I'm just kind of playing here. And I'm just going to add that water again with that paintbrush. And as you can see, the water does travel a bit on that watercolor paper when you're not directly on the colored area. So you can see I can fade that out so that it gives a bit of a highlight in the center of that mug. And here I'm just taking some color that was already on my brush and sort of dipping it back into some of the wet color that was on the mug and putting that on the handle of the mug. And now I'm going to take that pencil and I'm going to take a wet or a damp paintbrush here, the same paintbrush as before, and just wet it and touch the end of my pencil and bring the color in that way, like traditional watercolor painting. And I really like how that really brings out the solidness of the color. Anyway, it really does look nice when I do it like that. So I'm still getting used to it, whether I want to color it down first or go right from the pencil nib with my paintbrush. But I think it's turning out pretty well. And I'm just going to add a bit more color to the coffee mug handle here. And then I believe I go back into those hearts and add a little bit more color and try to blend in those harsh lines around the top hearts, because I did outline that with the pencil crayon initially. So I'm just going to darken up those hearts that are spilling out of that mug. Super cute image here. And then I'm going to do the paintbrush to pencil method on these hearts to make them a little bit more vibrant and a little bit more blended. So, is there something new that you guys have tried lately? Maybe you've bought something and you haven't had a chance to use it yet, and you were all excited when you saw somebody use it on a video, and you haven't really quite played with it yet. That's what I'm trying to do these days, and just, you know, I purchased the products, I should put them to good use. So this is what I'm doing with this card. And I'm also trying some new techniques like the no line coloring. So, and if it doesn't work out, that's okay, because I'm having some fun doing it. And I always like to color no matter the medium. It is relaxing, and I wasn't too hard on myself, so it ended up to be a lot of fun. So I'm moving on to the second mug here, and I love how scrumptious this mug looks with that whipped cream. There is a few sprinkle hearts on there, really cute, and I've picked some other blues here for the second mug because I didn't want them to be all the same color. But I really do like how that blue and the teal and the reds and the pinks go together on this card. Because I find a lot of times coffee cards are a lot of brown. You know, I tend to reach for browns and such. But this time I thought this would be cute, and it's a bit of a Valentine's theme. You can use this for a Valentine's card for a friend or your sweetie. So you can see that that blue is quite different. And the center of my mug there isn't looking too great. You can see that the water is sort of pushing that color while it's drying and creating a bit of a feathered edge there in the middle of my mug. So I will go back and fix that up later. And I'm not sure that mugs were the best thing to start trying to color because of the highlights and the shadows and where they go and what's shiny and, you know, but I just went with it here. And here's where I'm gonna blend all that color out by adding some more color with my paintbrush directly to the paper. And that seems to work out. Now, the difference between these and watercolors, from what I gather, is that these are somewhat permanent once they dry. So you can layer them. Definitely you can layer them. But once they're dry, you won't be able to put your wet paintbrush back in and have them move around. At least not very much. I'm not sure if they are permanent or not, but they work slightly different than your traditional watercolor pencils or paints, which I'm okay with because I have them. I got to use them. I'm not going to jump on the watercolor pencil train right at this moment. I'm going to have to love these. I'm going to have to love them up, use them, and really get my money's worth because they're not doing much sitting there in my craft room. So as you can see, those hearts weren't vibrant enough for me when I colored them with the pencil first, so I am bringing the color back in by doing the wet technique, I guess you'd call it, the brush to pencil to paper. And I decided to move on to my third mug, and I ended up coloring only 3 mugs. The other 2 mugs weren't that interesting. Plus, I didn't want to have to color a lot of brown because of the carafe would have coffee in it and would be a lot of brown, and that just was not the look I was going for. So here I'm just bringing in those pinks and reds again and a little bit of the teal greens so that it coordinates with the other mugs for the foliage there. And last but not least, I'm going to color in that last mug. I'm sort of getting the hang of it here and trying not to outline my whole image to get any harsh lines. So it's Valentine's this weekend and we don't have much planned. Probably a good cup of coffee for me and my husband, and I don't know, maybe we'll put on a movie for the kids and say don't bother us. But really they're good anyway. They love to play together, and I'm sure we'll have a great weekend. It's actually a long weekend here in Ontario. It's a family day on Monday, and so we'll have a nice 3-day weekend with the kids, and we have lots of board games planned and some family time. Oh, and it's also the Lunar New Year today, and we are also celebrating that by getting Japanese food. I know it's not very traditional, but there's a great place near us, so we want to support those small businesses, so that they are open when everything gets back open. So I really like how this blue is turning out on this mug, and I'm getting a hang of the shadows a bit more. I'm just going back and forth, really trying to build up that color. And this did take me quite a lot of time to color these images, and I had to speed this up quite a bit or this video would be super long. Because I really do just really take my time and get in the zone while coloring these images. And here's my tiny bit of brown coming in for that coffee. And we'll almost be done here coloring up our images. Now, in hindsight, I think I should have stamped this right directly on my card panel if I wanted a truly no line coloring look, because now I will have to cut these out, and I do have the coordinating dies for them. They still look good, but I think maybe stamping them and masking them might have been nice for this technique, but that's for another time. So I'm just deepening up those colors on the foliage and doing that with the paintbrush only as opposed to coloring on the paper. So here we're going to work on the background. And for this, I ran out of watercolor plate paper, which I didn't realize. So I'm using some mixed media paper, some Strathmore mixed media paper. And what I'm doing is sort of a wet on wet technique, they might call it. And I've just taken my paintbrush and put some nice clean water down. And sort of, I'm trying to achieve like sort of a spilt paint look or a splotch on the background of my card. And to do this, I'm just going to take the colors, the reds and the pinks, and put my paintbrush to it. You can see I'm just adding the color all around, and you can see that it is moving into the spots with more water in it. And it is drying back, but I keep adding some more color, sort of playing around here with what I can do to sort of make that look like a splatter of paint. I add some hearts because I think, oh, that should tie in nicely with my mugs. And just have fun with it. I have no idea at this point of doing this how it's going to turn out. Because really, this is the first time that I'm doing this. So I'm just kind of treating this like watercolor and just adding more color and more color and more color. And eventually, I'm going to get something that I like. So at the beginning, you saw that I had a stencil pulled out for this card, but I figured that it might have been a little bit too busy, and I came up with this idea instead. And I'm just going to add a few more little hearts here. Lots of fun. And you can definitely dry this with a heat tool if you'd like, maybe on a low setting. But I ended up walking away from it and coming back to it. Because, you know, a busy life with kids and a family, you do a little bit at a time and then you got to go make supper, or you got to do a little bit at a time and go, you know, do something else. Maybe laundry's calling. So it's a great way to just let things dry on their own. And here I got a little bit of an air bubble in my heart. So I just took the back of my, the end of my paintbrush, the other end, and just kind of popped it. I didn't want it leaving a bubble for me. And I decided, need more hearts, need more hearts, need more hearts. We want to make this super cute and tie it into our stamped images. And as you can see, I'm just adding more color, making that a little bit more intense as it dries back, and adding a few more hearts. And then I'm going to wet my paintbrush here. And I didn't know if this was going to work, but I wet my paintbrush and I really scrubbed that on the tip of my pencil, and then used that to create some splatter for my background. And it really did turn out nice. So here's the image after I let it air dry. And as you can see, there is a bit of, you know, feathering in the middle there. But it's okay. It's going to be covered up with my stamped images anyway. And I'm taking this Spectrum Noir sparkle pen and I squeezed some out onto a stamping block so that I could just paint this on and not worry about having to squeeze that marker as I'm going. And because these are permanent, not much of it came up on that sparkle pen. It was pretty good. If you scrub it a lot, I think it would reveal more color on the brush, but it ended up working out. So I'm taking my decal edge trimmer here from Tim Holtz and Tonic and just trimming my border. It's a quick way to add a little interest to your paper, your mats, and I'm just going to attach that to a red piece of cardstock. So I like how that looks with the slight red border there on my card. And the next thing we're going to do is stamp the sentiment. This sentiment, I believe, says sending a cup of happiness. And I'm going to stamp that with the Rock and Red ink from Catherine Pooler. And I'm really starting to love these inks. They stamp so crisply and so nice and dark. And I'm just going to play around with my stamped images here to see what looks best and how that's going to look on the background that I created with the Inktense pencils. So I'm just going to glue those directly on my card front because I'm sending this in the mail. I could add dimension. I think it would look really great popped up as well. But since I'm going to be sending it through the mail, we're just going to secure those right on the card front with some liquid glue. And I'm getting smart and using my handy tweezers to hold the pieces so that I don't get gluey fingers. And I want to make sure that those nice hearts spilling out of that cup are showing. And then finish off with my third mug. And I really love how that looks. So next I'm going to attach that to my card base, which is an A2 size card base. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I wish I knew those measurements because I cut the panel wrong. And here I am attempting to try to remove the white part of the card from the red part, but it's not going to happen. It's glued down there quite nicely. So I'm just going to go back to my decal edge trimmer and give it a whirl and see if it can trim 2 pieces of cardstock at once, and it is successful. So I'm going to trim that down quite a bit. And I should be worrying about measurements, but yeah, it just escaped me today. And instead of cutting that red cardstock down, I'm just going to attach that directly onto my white card base here. And then I'm going to trim off the excess after. Now, another in hindsight moment is to just have a red card base. I could have had a red card base, and then probably I would have added a white panel on the inside or a white card liner with some computer paper on the inside of a red card base. But you know, I wasn't thinking too far ahead today. And so now that that's ready, I'm able to get my card front attached to my card base, and the border still looks great. I think it adds a little something to have that nice red border around the card. Brings it all together. Now with a little glossy accents, I'm going to add that to the hearts. And a few of the hearts, I'm deciding which hearts to make shiny. And that just adds a little something extra to my card. It's going to look a little bit foggy here, but I assure you it does dry clear. And I'm just going to take my white gel pen here and just clean up some of the mistakes I made coloring outside the lines here. So that finishes off my card for today. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Please consider subscribing, liking, and commenting, and we'll catch you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.